today I want to show you the master behind the camera, who is Connor Crowley.
Hello.
Watch this space. He is going to be the next Sir Roger Deacon, I think, of his time. He is fantastic. And the astonishing thing is he's actually only 17, although, you know, the way he behaves, frankly, puts my 16-year-old to shame.
Thank you.
And the rest of my family, just in case you thought you weren't going to be mentioned there. Anyway. I thought I'd bring him around the front of the camera because I want to try and scare him because he's young and impressionable. And he is also quite intrigued about all the ghost stories that we have to tell about Hedingham Castle. And they are quite hilarious, some of them. And the reason that we're in the kitchen to start with is because the first one is all about 11 minutes to 5. And we have 2 clocks, one which is where the photos of the children are. There used to be a big sort of carriage clock there. You know, I don't know what you call them, coach clocks. They were like on the front of a coach house sort of thing. And then we've got on the top of the chimney piece, we've got a little clock. And we came back from a holiday, and they were both stopped. They both stopped at 11 minutes to 5. So of course, being us, we went to Hazel, who everyone's met, and said, you know, ha ha ha, that's really funny. And she looked at us, and the colour completely drained from her face, and she said, I haven't touched the clocks. I kid you not. And they had stopped at precisely the same time. So one day, before I die, I will find out what happened. On one day in the 900 years of Hedingham history, something happened at 11 minutes to 5. So that is quite intriguing, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah,
it is. And then the other really good ghost story that happened in here was that I got to bed, you know, really interesting, and I was lying there sort of thinking about the next day, and I suddenly said, oh, I can't bear it, I haven't washed Natasha's shoes for school, and her school shoes were sitting there caked in mud as always. And I said, I've got to go downstairs, I've got to wash the shoes, and I'll be back up in a minute. And Jason was reading his book, and he had hardly heard me, you know, so off I stomped in a really bad mood. And I got down to the kitchen, and I washed the shoes. And as I was putting them on the Arga to dry, the door over there, literally, it was closed. Yeah. It then opened 90 degrees, and then it closed 90 degrees. And the whole room sort of went tingly. And it was really weird. And I suddenly realised I had company. Yeah. You know, when you just have that feeling. And I said out loud, hello! Yeah. And then I thought, well, and this is the first time it had happened to me here. Yeah. Because I used to see ghosts at my parents' house, but I'd never had them here. So I then got really brave, and I turned the light out as one does when one goes to bed, and I went through to the double doors, which are just through there. Yeah. And as I was pushing the double doors, they don't have a clasp or anything, you just push them open. Okay. They're on a spring. I felt as if my hands were going through treacle to get to the door, and eventually I was pushing the door with all my might, and I suddenly realised that I was being played a trick on, and it was, you know, and I sort of, oh ho ho ho, at which point, and I said that out loud as well, at which point the doors flung open because I was pushing so hard, and I literally ran to the end, you know, I was sort of, you know, because my whole weight was against these doors, and I ran to the end of the passage and stopped just before the wall. And I was just like, okay, that was quite funny, but it was quite weird at the same time. And I went up to bed completely chuckling to myself. James was like, I thought you just cleaned some shoes and you were in a bad mood. And I was like, wow, you never would have guessed. Yeah. So weird. Oh my God, that totally freaked me out. This is a hilarious story because it's so funny how you don't want to believe something's a ghost unless actually it's kind of put to you. And I was in this room and we were hanging the silk on the walls. And needless to say, there was a deadline going on because there always is when we do a project. And I was sticking, you have to hang the silk first, and then you stick with a glue gun the gimp that goes all the way around the edge, and as you can see, all the way along the ceiling there. And I was on a step ladder that meant that I was absolutely up there on the ceiling. And so it was very close to the floor of the room above. And it was, I don't know, it must have been 5:30 in the morning, and there was a wedding that evening. So I was in a rush, I was flustered because I got the whole room to do, and it was, I still hadn't cleaned it, and, all the usual panic. And I heard footsteps in the room above. So I was just like, for heaven's sake, if Jace is up, why isn't he helping me? That's just so annoying, Anyway, nobody appeared, and I thought, well, it's ridiculous. Tasha, who was at, probably 1.5, was still in bed. So I thought, well, he should be down here, at least making me a bacon butty or a cup of tea or something nice. So eventually I sort of finished it, and I must have been sort of getting to Natasha waking up time, and I went upstairs in a bit of a strop, and I walked into the room, and I thought I'd find Jace sort of, I don't know, doing something. Anyway, he was absolutely fast asleep in bed. I sort of looked at him and I said to him, it's sort of time to get up now. Really confused. And he looked at me and he said, what's wrong? And I said, well, you've obviously gone back to bed because you've been up and you've been walking around and you hadn't come and helped me and you didn't make me a cup of tea and I'd got myself in a fury. And he said, no, I haven't been up. Calm down. I haven't, I'm really sorry I was sleeping, but that was kind of the arrangement. I did last night, you did this morning. And then we both looked at each other and realised that obviously someone else had been walking around above me. And who could that have been? Well, it wasn't anyone that we knew. So one of the other things that needed repairing when we arrived was this amazing, beautiful panelling. And the carpenter was here, and he'd got his chisel out for some reason, and he was doing something, and he was putting this panel back. I don't know what he was doing, and he put his chisel down, and when he turned around, it wasn't there anymore. And needless to say, he thought he'd gone mad, like we all do when something like that happens. And then about a week later, Vicky, who was helping me at the time look after the children, wonderful girl, she said, she came and she said, you'll never believe what's happened, but James's chisel has been found in the wheelbarrow outside. I mean, it's so strange. And I said, that is really weird because I've lost my address book, and this is obviously pre-mobile phone, everything being, all your numbers being in the phone. So it was actually really important. Jace wasn't here that week, he was doing whatever. And I haven't been able to telephone anyone because I can't find my phone number book. And Vicky said, well, maybe the same thing has moved that as well. So I looked at the ceiling and I said, please, can I have my book back? Anyway, Vicky and I then went upstairs straight away to do something in the office. And as I walked into the office, on the step that goes into the office, right in the middle of the step, was my telephone book waiting for me. And we both got up there. I mean, I must have used that step, I don't know, 100 times in the last week, just in and out of my office. And there it was, sitting there, waiting for me. It had been given back. Okay, so this is a really good one. Hazel has always said that when she's in this room, she sometimes hears the pitter-patter of little feet. And the stride length is much smaller. So she turns around and is always looking down, thinking she's going to see one of our children, but there's no one there ever. And we had the most hilarious, weirdest time here, because one day we used to use this room for the weddings, and they used to come and change up here. And the wedding dress was already in the room waiting for the bride, and it was a Saturday morning. And the bride was coming at 10 o'clock, and the wedding coordinator came to me and she said, you've got to come now. It's an utter disaster. I cannot get this door open. So we both came up here and we couldn't get the door open. And then Jace turned around and said, but this door has never had a key. Anyway, so we thought, what on earth are we doing? It's pouring with rain outside, literally pouring with rain. We had to get a ladder, we had to put it up against that window. We had to open the window from the outside. Jace then came in with his screwdriver, took the back of the door off, you know, the lock, which luckily is surface mounted onto the door. Meanwhile, the wedding coordinator was downstairs stalling the bride, saying things like, "Oh, and have you seen this painting? This is a really nice painting." And the bride's thinking, "I just want to get dressed. Can I not just go up to the room and get dressed?" "Oh, have you not seen this painting? It's really good." And as the, you know, he took the lock off because that was the only way of getting the door open because there was no key. As the bride was coming along the landing there, Jace was then retreating out of the window, leaving puddles of water all the way into the bathroom, and with howls of giggles going on from us too. I mean, what the bride thought, I have no idea, but it was so strange and so odd that we couldn't open the door. So there is another ghost story where we've actually seen the ghost. When the brides get married and the grooms, they quite often go up into the minstrel's gallery after their ceremony in the banqueting floor, and I'm talking about the keep, the castle here. And it's actually really lovely because they get a tiny bit of time to themselves, but they also have the opportunity of looking down at their wedding, and there's this sort of royal wave moment. And lots of people, quite often, you know, the guests, they flick out their mobiles and they take photos of the bride and groom up in the minstrel's gallery. And somebody did this. And in fact, it's only the bride in this particular photo who's standing on the side of the alcove, and behind her, just sort of here, is this head, and it looks like he or she is wearing a sort of Venetian mask, you know, with a big nose and a very white forehead, and in a cowled cloak. But what's extraordinary is that you could see the light of the window underneath them, so the person only appears to here, from here to here, and then the window continues beneath them. And they say that you can only see those with sort of what you might call cheaper cameras. So I could, Connor, I could just take you round the whole castle and, you know, say, come on, we're the ghosts, but they'll never, you've got such a gorgeous camera there, we'll never see them. So, the thing about Hedingham is that there are actually lots more ghost stories. And, you know, I could bore you for about 5 hours. And, you know, there are lots more with all the history, the historical people that, you know, have lived here and the keep and all that sort of thing. But I think that's just a bit of a taster for now. So please subscribe to us. Please click like, it'll make me feel loved. And come back next week and we'll tell you something else about Hedingham. See you then.